Hello, and welcome back to the makerspace. I'm John, and today we are looking back again at our cat toy. And let's first of all, let's just look at our circuit as we have it now. We have figured out our programming problems, and as you'll see, it was basically the max distance was the main problem here. So I'm already turned on and it's ready to go. And if we have something pass in front of our sensor, like this, you can see perhaps that the motor is moving. Alright, so I'm just passing my hand in front of it, and it's moving pretty much perfectly. Every now and then it won't detect it, but right now everything's working perfectly well. So Ardy, our makerspace cat, is going to be coming back to the makerspace tomorrow as he changes hands. Ryan and Fumi are going on vacation, and my girlfriend Pelagi and I will be taking care of him for a little while. And so I really would like to kind of have something that we can test with the cat tomorrow. I was thinking about this, and cats are soft, and soft things do not reflect sound as well, especially with the sorry about that, with the fur. So I really want to have something that we can kind of get going. So today we're going to work on making the base, the stand, and the head that's going to hold the toy with the motor inside. So that's what we're going to do today. And I was also thinking about the possibility that this thing might tip over if the cat were to grab the toy and pull it. And I was thinking that perhaps one of the best ways of preventing this little tower of sorts from tipping over would be to just make sure that it's not too tall, right? Because basically it's going to be leverage. That's the problem that we're going to have to work against. So there's always things that we could do to kind of prevent it from tipping over, adding lots of weight to the bottom, or maybe securing it to the floor. But since this is supposed to be a toy that can kind of be moved around, put out of the way when it's not being used, and maybe moved around to not be in the way of furniture and things. So there's a couple things that I'm thinking that we can do. On the programming side, we can make it so that there's like a no movement zone, so that if the cat is either laying next to it, or if there's some furniture that's in the way, and we're getting some readings. Currently it's set to not move if the value is 0, and it should move if it's greater than 0. But occasionally, for example, if the cat is sitting in front of the sensor, it's going to have and also if the cat is not too soft to provide some type of feedback to the sensor, then we're going to need something that will detect that the cat's there and not moving, and so it won't activate constantly. And so my idea is that we'll have like a variable that will compare against the newest readings. So basically that's all software that we can deal with later, and in the meantime we want to make sure that we have something that we can test tomorrow when Ardy actually comes into the makerspace. So yes, let's make the base today, and we're going to build the base, we're going to build the tower, and hopefully we'll have time to build the head of our contraption. If we don't, then I'll finish it up tomorrow while Ardy is here, and then test it while he's here as well. But today is actually the day off for the makerspace. We're closed, but anyways, I'm here just because I have some free time at the moment. So let's get started on that. Okay, so as I have perhaps explained before, I'm a big proponent of not letting things go to waste. And so here we have a piece of wood that is a scrap piece of wood that is left over from some other project, and as you can see there's some nasty parts on it. So we're just going to kind of remove the nasty parts. We're not so much trying to square it up into a perfect square. Sorry for the cars going by. We're just trying to make it something that is not so nasty. So first we're going to cut off these crappy pieces, and then we'll go from there. Alright? So let's try to do this as safely as possible, although I'm not a professional at any of this. I'm just a hobbyist, and one of the things I constantly say is that you don't have to be the best at something, you just have to try. And as long as it works, then you're going in the right direction. We learn from our mistakes. So I have set our guide up to something that will allow us to cut this side as best as possible. Then we'll reset it, and we'll cut our other sides as well. So here we go. Don't forget to use a push stick. I have ear protection and eye protection as well. And here we go. It's all right. Doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be close enough. It's not a perfect piece of wood. This side's all right, and so is the other. No, this is last side, and it's really, well, it's a little bit ugly on both sides, if perhaps you can see. So this side seems to be a little bit uglier, so what we'll do is we'll look for clean cut on that side, and that's what we'll go for. However, since it's so uneven, it's not really going to be good for our guide, to be honest. So let's see. We might have to use a skill saw on this section, but let's see if there's a good way we can do this. If we just hold it, let's see, what do we do when we have a really uneven side? Maybe, let's think about it for just a second. We've got a router that we could try out. I'm afraid we'll run into more or less the same problem if we try to use the router. As you can see, it's a cold, wet day in Osaka. Maybe you can see that. Ah, got it. Okay, so what we can do. Should have been obvious, but again, I'm just doing my best. There we go. We line up the opposite side. We got enough space, and that looks pretty good. I think that's going to do just fine. All right, let's set this down like that. All right. I don't think we need our push stick all that much here. We'll just stand to the side if anything shoots off, it should be okay. There's nobody out there. No cars coming at the moment. We should be okay. Let's try it. That's pretty good. Alright. We had a small piece fall down in, but we'll fish that out later. Okay, so as you can see, whoops, sorry about that. I accidentally kicked my my stand there. As you can see, our edges are all nice and smooth now. This should prevent any like injury. Ouch! A couple still splinters in there. Hopefully, this will prevent any injury to the cat. I'm thinking that possibly we can also cover this with a carpet tile, and so that would give us a little bit extra protection. As you can see, there's a little bit of tear out here in our plywood. Whether or not we should actually cut it, I'm not sure, just because the piece of wood is already a little bit oblong in this direction. So maybe it's okay as it is. We'll try it out and we'll see how it goes. Alright, let's move on to the next step. Okay, so our next step is I have a bit of wood here that is just kind of scrap, but it's square, and I believe it's going to be thick enough that we can drill a hole into the end of it here for our motor. The motor is 32.7 millimeters. I don't have a 32.7 millimeter bit, of course, but I have a 30 millimeter bit, and so we'll start off with that, and we'll put it down in there. And then we'll maybe route out around a little bit, or we'll sand it or something. But the first thing we need to do is kind of square it up so that it lays flat on two ends. And we'll also try to think of a height that is not too bad. We don't want it too tall, or it has the potential of falling over. I'm thinking something in this area is probably best, because then we'll have another block on top, maybe the same wood, maybe different wood, probably the same wood. And we'll have a maximum height maybe somewhere around in there. Maybe it won't fall over. Basically, the toy is going to be sticking out and then hanging down with the string with the little thing on the end of it, or whatever is going to be happening. And so if it's too tall, that's not any good. But if it's a little bit short, the toy can still kind of fling around, and that's not a problem, right? So I'm thinking we'll cut it right about here. We'll square it up first, cut it right in this area, and try it out. If we have, if there are tests with the cat fail tomorrow, then we can always just cut another piece because we've got a lot of it. All right, so here we go. Move some stuff out of the way. Check here. Ah, still got stuff in the way. Now, if you're like me, you have a relatively cheap chop saw. It works well. It chops and it saws, but it's not always square, judging by the degrees that we have over here. And we have a tri-square somewhere, but at the moment I can't find it, and I'm running out of time before I have to go to dinner with my friends. So we'll use a regular square, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to push it against the flat surface of our chop saw here, and we're going to pull our blade down. We're going to hold it against our blade and see if it looks pretty square. It actually does. It looks pretty good. It's not really having any gaps between the front and the back. If it does, that would be something you would want to fix. And if I look here, it's really close to zero, but it's slightly off, and I think it's because it's just, this thing is off a little bit. What I could probably do is loosen this screw and move it over a bit and adjust it so that it kind of lines up a little bit better, but that's not really something I want to do right now. Right now, I want to chop some wood. So, here we go. First, we're going to even it out. So, and also, a really nice thing is that Ryan has made this little nice golden block And the idea of this block is that you set it under, and it should, although which direction? This direction, obviously. It should be level. Now, is it? It's not looking like it, to be honest. It's not fitting under there. Maybe my wood's warped is the problem. So I put it one way, the 2x4 regular flat way. We got a big gap. Put the other way is a very small gap, so maybe it's just the wood that's warped. If we move it, rotate it, maybe our block is a little bit off. But if we stick it far enough down, we'll have a small enough of an angle. It'll work. Maybe we just need to kind of redo that block. But it's a great idea anyway. It kind of keeps your stock straight while you cut on it. And that looks like a good bit to cut. Let me just grab my ear protection because this is loud. Okay, here we go. Quick chop. Alright. As you can see, we cut off just a little bit. But it looks a lot better, to be honest. It looks far more square than it did. And check it out. Oh yeah, that's much better. It's much better. It looks quite square to me. I mean, again, even if it's not perfect, it's close enough. This isn't for any type of a fancy, high precision project. This is just a cat's toy, and there's going to be a gap there anyway because we're going to have a motor attached to a block on the top, and we need some space for movement. So that looks good. Now we're just going to cut our length. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. However, I might measure it and try to get it to a certain length just to know what it is. So for example, 25 centimeters might be a good way to go. That seems like from here, that seems like a pretty good distance. Plus there's going to be another, I don't know, 10 centimeters or so on top of that as we make our block. So then we're looking at 35 centimeters tall. That's about a foot, slightly over, and I think that's okay. We just want something that will allow the toy to kind of move around, even if it's dragging along on the ground. You could always shorten your cord on your cat toy or something. We just want it to move more or less freely and not tip over. So I think 25 looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and mark that. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but somewhere around in there. Now, when cutting, you always have to consider the width of your blade. It's going to cut along your line. So since we're not really going perfect, it doesn't matter that much. However, for the sake of trying for the video, we'll try to line it up a little bit. That seems okay. The line is mostly on the right side, so that means that the width of the blade is going to not cover the line, although it should cut along the line. If you're trying to preserve the piece on the left, then you want to make sure your line kind of lines up with the left side of your blade, right? So that the left side, the left face of the blade is right on your line. So, here we go. That looks good. The line is almost completely gone. This blade is a multi-blade. It's good for metal or wood, and so it's not the cleanest blade ever. It tends to have a little bit of a rough edge on one side, but maybe that's common for all blades. I'm not sure, but it looks pretty good. Seems pretty square. We can even check it. And yes, indeed, we can see that it is quite square. Not 100%, but 99.2 or some random variation thereof. I think it looks pretty good. So that's going to be our pillar on top of our base, right? I think this height, and I'll move it around a little bit so you can see better. Is that all right? Yeah, that seems more or less okay. I think this particular base and height are probably okay, right? When you say we could maybe go a little bit higher, but again, I'm a little bit worried that if the cat grabs the toy and gives it a yank, I don't want everything to go tumbling over on top of the cat. So a little bit short is a little bit better. It makes it harder for him to pull everything over. So that looks okay to me. Plus there's going to be a little bit for the top. Now, let's go ahead and cut that top bit because we're going to need it. And again, I'm just going to estimate. Basically, we have the top of the motor, and we just need something to fit up inside of there. We'll probably glue it. And so I'm thinking 10 centimeters or less is probably sufficient. So if we look here, oh yeah, 10 centimeters. I'm sorry. I was way overestimating. 5 centimeters is probably best, right? I'm a relatively new convert to the metric system. I've been using it for about 10 years or so. Sometimes I forget just how big 10 centimeters is. I do recommend switching to the metric system if you're on the imperial system. The metric system is much better. Much better. So we're going to go for 5 centimeters. I think that's going to be the perfect height. So here we go. Let's just give it a quick measure, a quick marking, and a quick cut. It's right about in there. All right. Line it up with the right side of our blade, since we are keeping our long end, our unused end, on the left. And I have my hand away from the blade, holding it flat, since we're getting a little short. My block's over there. I'm not going to bother with it. It's not that heavy now. Here we go. And that's pretty good. You can see that I did miss my line just by a little bit. And my line, maybe not perfect, but we're pretty close. And I think that's going to be just fine. So I'm running out of time now, but what we'll do is we'll drill a small hole here, or route a small hole or something, as close to the center as we possibly can. And whether or not we round the corners on this, I don't know. We might not. We'll leave that up for tomorrow. And so what we have today, we have our base, we have our main support, which we will also route a line straight down so that our cord will go through here. Then afterwards we'll place it on in the center of our board. We'll drill a hole so that our cord can also go down. Probably route another line here so that we can keep our electrical cord kind of flush with the floor. And yeah, we will drill a hole here, 32.7 millimeters, maybe 32.8, or however close we can get to that. And as I said before, a small one here for the motor. And so what we'll have is basically we will mount a sensor here on this side, another sensor on this side. We will have this onto the motor. We'll have a little bit of a gap so that it can spin freely, and we will probably also route out a little pocket on whichever side has our cord. We will route out a little pocket for our Digispark, and maybe a little bit more for our little circuit board that's going to have our transistor and our capacitors and diode and blah 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 blah. And then a couple of holes on opposite sides, so you can put in different size cat toys. And then this thing should be functional. It should spin around whenever something comes into this path of the sensor, and I think it's going to be fine. So here we have it. We've used some recycled wood, using recycled electronics, except for a few passives, and I think it's going to be okay. We will also wrap this with a little bit of carpet tile, so the cat can maybe scratch on it a little bit if he wants to, although it is a little bit short for that, but maybe he wants to lay down and scratch on it. Sometimes he does that. But anyway, it will protect our power cord that's going down and out. And since he doesn't tend to just bite and scratch at wires that we have for, like, phone chargers and stuff like that, I think a cable coming out of the side is not going to be a problem. So always trying to think of the mentality of the cat, right? The psychology. What does he want to attack? What does he want to bite on? Keep things safe. We might have to build some type of a little box around our sensors so that he's not, accidentally scratching those and damaging the electronic components on them, and any wirings that we might have as well. We may also have to run a little route around the opposite side so that each sensor is embedded into the wood. Again, not a problem. However, since the motor is going to be most of the space here, it might be a little bit tricky. Maybe the better thing to do would be to, instead of routing around, just drill a hole, have the wires come out covered by our protecting surface, and then have them running under the motor and just protect them electrically with some heat shrink or some other type of insulation. So anyways, that we will get to tomorrow because I am out of time for today, but we are really getting close, and we'll probably, I think, end up hand drilling most of these holes, simply because I'm not sure if I can get this under the drill press so that we can line it up really well. It might be a little bit too tall, so we might just end up hand drilling it, and that'll be okay. That shouldn't be a problem. But alright, that's it for today. I'll see you next time. Hang in there. We're going to get this thing done. End is coming soon. Bye.